I suspect my girlfriend of 12 months may have adjusted a few factors in some short stories that have been shared. I understand that this happens, but is 100% honesty an unrealistic standard? Do you find yourself doing this sometimes? Story 1. If we are discussing important matters, such as not cheating or not selling your home and car without asking, then yes. However, if it is about some insignificant factors in a few short stories that have been shared, then probably not. It is difficult to assess your situation without more specific information. Story 2. Direct questions should be answered honestly. However, people often forget and exaggerate things, or leave out details they consider irrelevant. Complete honesty is nearly impossible, but it is easy to avoid deceiving others. Story 3. It's about complete honesty in the areas that matter most to you as a couple. Topics such as intimacy and finances are likely where complete honesty is expected and realistic. How many cookies you ate is not. Story 4. Honesty is often elusive. Some individuals may not remember details accurately, and over time, their recollections can change simply because they forget what truly occurred. Story 5. Not at all realistic. There will be times when you lie. I finish work and get some food, but I don't tell my girlfriend because she always complains about not receiving something. I would if I weren't 45 minutes away, and I know she also complains when her food is cold. I'd rather not listen to it. Story 6. My fiancé will tell me anything I ask, even if I don't want to know the answer. I know better than to ask questions to which I don't want to know the answer, usually. Are we completely honest with each other all the time? No. Do I expect her to be honest with me if I ask her something? Absolutely. Story 7. The more honesty each person expresses, the more nuance is needed in both expressing and receiving it. Sometimes people tell small lies or outright deceive for malicious reasons, and other times they do so because they believe the person they are speaking to cannot handle the truth. For example, in a past relationship, my ex-girlfriend was extremely paranoid about me cheating on her since she had been betrayed in the past. It reached a point where she was suspicious of me having any female friends. I tried to be completely honest with her about the nature of my close friendships with other women, where our boundaries were set and so on, but it was never enough for her. Eventually, I began lying by downplaying my closeness to other women to give her a sense of security and reduce her feelings of competition. But my dishonesty predictably backfired, leading her to be even more suspicious. One way to promote truthfulness in a relationship is to help each other grow in ways that make it easier to accept difficult or uncomfortable truths. When one or both people in a relationship cannot handle basic truths that should not be a source of conflict, that relationship likely needs to end. Story 8. It is very realistic to share from the start that honesty is important to you and that you are only looking to be with someone who is honest and can handle honesty. That being said, you need to give people some grace. No one is perfect, and honesty takes work. It requires communication, non-judgment, and two people who are willing to put in the effort. There is a book titled Radical Honesty, which might be a good read for you and your significant other to explore together. You also need to understand that not everyone shares the same values. It is important to discuss your values and goals before entering into a relationship so you can pair with the right person. If honesty is not a priority for someone, that is okay for them, but it could be a deal breaker for you. Always choose a partner who shares your values and goals, or both of you may end up unhappy, leading to a toxic relationship. Story 9. Honesty about important matters is crucial. Issues that can be deal breakers in a relationship need to be addressed with complete transparency. For example, questions like, "Did your ex have a bigger penis?" are not relevant and will not positively impact the relationship. Over time, you may build the trust necessary to share the complete truth with your girlfriend or wife. Learning to manage 90% truths now without judgment or overreacting is essential for developing the trust needed to reach that full honesty in the future. Story 10. Being 100% honest means you have to share even your most secret desires? Or does it mean you just don't hide what you do daily in the physical world? If it's the second, then yes, it is possible. Story 11. My wife is almost pathologically honest. She does not mince words or tell half-truths. If you ask her about anything, There is no filter through which the information is passed. She will tell you the brutal, honest truth. This is not a point of pride for her. She isn't one of those who take pride in being brutally honest but are just inconsiderate. To be frank, it has been a bit difficult to adjust. I'm used to gentle truths and unnecessary information being withheld to spare the feelings of others. These are societal norms that exist for a reason. Not having the expectation of a comfortable, massaged truth is still, after 10 years, somewhat jarring. Overall, I appreciate the honesty. There are no games. Communication is straightforward. There is no guesswork. However, every now and then, my wife will make an unfiltered and needlessly truthful statement, which can sting. This has led me to be as honest as I can with her. If both parties can adjust to that constant honesty, it creates a solid foundation for a relationship. But it is by no means a realistic standard to achieve. Society, particularly American society, operates on comfortable white lies. Story 12. I believe that honesty is a shared responsibility between both partners. For example, if your partner requires you to swear that you will never watch adult content or engage in self-pleasure, and reacts with extreme anger if you break that promise, they are essentially forcing you to lie. This responsibility falls on both partners equally. Story 13. Completely unrealistic. You really don't want total honesty in any relationship, romantic or not. 80 to 90% is a much healthier amount. It's also important to remember that people's memories are not perfect. Story 14. My rule of thumb is to trust others completely until they give me a reason not to. Did she intentionally adjust these factors? Or is her memory unreliable? If you believe she intentionally adjusted those factors, can you assume her intentions for doing so? Her intentions might actually be quite important if she is deliberately making those adjustments. I'm just trying to understand this better, as you provided little information. Story 15. Successful relationships begin with 100% honesty. Anyone who disagrees is avoiding the truth. I found my success years ago when I stopped playing dating games. This approach works and reveals the true nature of partners quickly. Trust your instincts if you feel you cannot trust someone. Story 16. It depends if it is emblematic of their relationship with the truth. My former partner would exaggerate every story and add details that did not happen, even when recounting events I witnessed myself and knew were not accurate. It turned out she was a pathological liar and unfaithful. Story 17. You don't want complete honesty. Your hairline has receded, you've gained weight, your skin is not great, and your flatulence can be off-putting, making her less attracted to you each time. She's had partners with larger attributes and more attractive men than you have asked her out, likely while you've been dating. Complete honesty is not a realistic expectation in a relationship. However, complete honesty about important matters is necessary in a relationship. If her modifications to stories are just her trying to sound better or omitting the fact that her friend had an embarrassing moment on a trip, that's totally fine. But if her modifications are aimed at covering up the presence of unattached men during the trip or downplaying her financial situation and debt, then that's an issue. Story 18. It depends on the maturity of the couple. Understanding that we are human and recognizing each other's needs is important. The ideal relationship would involve like-mindedness and complete transparency, allowing for open communication and living without fear. However, I would say the likelihood of achieving this is about 20%. Story 19. You are just getting to know each other after 12 months. Relax. I once met someone I dated for a couple of years in a group setting over several days, like camping and hiking. I mentioned during a campfire conversation that my parents had passed away. I was estranged from my father, and my mother had passed. Years later, while we were living together, it came up that my father was alive. I did lie about my father being dead, and my partner and I were serious enough to be living together. It was an easy lie to tell around the campfire years ago, and it never came up. He felt very betrayed, and I was sorry. Families are complicated, so it never came up when he visited mine. I know everything about you. It takes time, like 20 years. Chill. Story 20. It depends on the people involved and how accepting you can be. My fiancé and I are very open and share almost everything, even embarrassing moments. For me, it is natural not to hide things except for birthday presents, anniversary gifts, and similar surprises. She finds the honesty refreshing, and after 4 years, we have built a lot of trust. No, it is not for everyone. Is it possible? Yes. Is it easy? Not always. Story 21. Completely unrealistic. No one is going to tell you everything. If you are wise, you will not share every detail with your girlfriend, especially your worries or concerns. Avoid discussing your emotional state if you are feeling angry, fearful, worried, depressed, despairing, or despondent. Story 22. Honesty is not the same as transparency, accuracy, self-awareness, or intent. Expectations can be detrimental, so try to have none. Trust is earned. Consider how trustworthy a person is based on their other actions. This should guide your confidence. Story 23. Like what? About the color of the dog in a fun anecdote or about her going to jail for a serious crime? It seems you are seeking problems that may not actually be problems. Story 24. How important are the differences in what she said? If it is just telling a story and adding some fun or excitement to it, that is usually not a bad thing to get worked up about. If she is hiding something, that is different. Story 25. My opinion is that it is wise not to say everything in all situations, but what is said to each other must always be the truth. Story 26. It really depends. It's normal to forget details sometimes, but if she is deliberately hiding things from you, then it is a cause for concern. Story 27. I can immediately think of 2 questions I've heard people ask their significant others, where pure honesty can be hard to swallow. Do I look fat in this outfit? Am I the best you've ever had in bed? If you expect complete honesty, be careful what you wish for, or rather, what you ask. Story 28. Ask yourself this. You slept with someone before her, and it was the most amazing experience you ever had, and you still think about her. Later, she asks if other women were better and if you still think about other girls. What will your answer be? Story 29. I am going to go against the grain and say that full honesty, to the best of your ability at all times, is essential in a long-term relationship. What are you doing in your relationships and marriages? Story 30. The way I see it, complete honesty is impossible. However, when it comes to important matters, it is imperative to have full honesty. For example, the girl I am interacting with shares details about her day. While it would be unrealistic to expect a second-by-second account, I do expect her to tell the truth without omitting important details. Story 31. After over 30 years of marriage, I must say that complete honesty is essential. However, as evidenced by the comments, many people struggle to tell the truth and often justify their falsehoods. Story 32. It depends on what the factors were. If it is a detail that does not matter to the story, then it is not significant. If it is the actual issue, then it matters. Story 33. It depends on what the changes are. The more we recall an event, our memories about the event can change. What we see in our mind may not be completely accurate. Instead, it is about how we recall the event. The main aspect that remains constant is what happened. In other words, the essence of the memory. Colors and various details may change. Story 34. When it comes to sharing stories, people have different ideas about what is acceptable in terms of embellishment. Some may not even view that as dishonesty. If it is important to you to get all the details exactly as they happened, you should start by communicating that to her and having a discussion. Story 35. Never lie, but you don't have to tell every unpleasant truth. Some things should be kept to yourself. At the same time, don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. Story 36. You cannot just ask for trust. You have to earn it. If you want her to be completely honest with you, continue to be faithful with what she shares. Story 37. I don't know if anyone is completely certain. If you care about them, then do not lie to them. If it is terrible, then present it in a better way. If it is good, then also communicate it in a better way. Story 38. I won't lie to my significant other, but I fully reserve the right not to share things that do not impact or involve her. Rather than lie about something I am uncomfortable discussing, I will simply tell her that I do not want to talk about it, or I will not bring it up at all. Story 39. It very much depends on the context. If it involves significant issues that impact the integrity of the relationship, then I expect complete honesty. If she lies about a funny situation at work and exaggerates it to make it more amusing, I don't mind. Similarly, if my partner forgets to pick up something from the store but says, they didn't have it, I don't really care. Perhaps it's just how I was raised. But I only strongly value honesty when it is essential to the foundation of the relationship or to key aspects of someone's personality. Story 40. People lie. I guess the real question is, what type of fabricated storytelling behaviors can you tolerate? Obviously, the less lying they do, the better. Their lies shouldn't harm you or your well-being. Story 41. Unfortunately, many people lie, which is frustrating. I am curious about the context of your girlfriend's stories because sometimes when sharing stories, not everyone includes every exact detail, and some details may be remembered differently over time. Additionally, it is important to recognize that processing feelings and experiences can take time. This is why personal boundaries can change over time. Even when someone shares a story and feels a certain way about it, they may later realize their feelings have shifted. Change is the only constant. It's not that people are necessarily lying in the moment. Instead, as time passes, feelings and perspectives can evolve. Without context, it is challenging to understand the situation. However, I personally value honesty and cannot tolerate liars. It is not unrealistic to expect honesty, but it can be difficult to find genuine, honest individuals. Story 42. 99% yes. Lighthearted gestures intended to boost your partner are normal. However, lightheartedness is key, as there are limits. It's valid to not want a partner who lies to keep you in a relationship. Such lies, often used for manipulation, could be about the past, values, identity, finances, and so on. Such individuals should be avoided at all costs. Story 43. From Interstellar. I hold this true. Cooper. Hey Tars. What is your honesty parameter? Tars. 90%. Cooper. 90%? Tars. Absolute honesty isn't always the most diplomatic or the safest form of communication with emotional beings. My significant other said something that hurt me deeply. She didn't mean it with any malice, but it felt as if I had been pierced by a sword. She was being honest, and I wasn't prepared. Story 44. I think a better question is whether you believe she continues to operate in the relationship in good faith. Someone can be as truthful as possible, but if they act in bad faith, then it doesn't matter. Story 45. 100% honesty is not possible and is not really desirable. Accept that now and understand what sorts of distortions are normal in your communications. Integrity of intent is far more important. Story 46. It is not realistic and it is not desirable. There is a level of honesty that, even when softened, crosses the line into being rude and insensitive. Story 47. Not to mention, we learn new things every day that someone else heard, so we are all just a bunch of liars because half that information was false to begin with. The dress was white and gold is an example of people lying. It was clearly blue and black. Story 48. Instead of asking vague questions, go straight to the root of the issue. What do you think your girlfriend is lying about? Is it serious? Why do you believe she lied? Maybe you should talk to her about it and ask for more details. Story 49. White lies are like the grease of any good relationship. Always thank someone for cooking, even if it was not great. If it was mildly palatable, say it was good. If it was good, say it was great. If it was great, celebrate with genuine appreciation. Story 50. I don't know, to be honest, my girlfriend lies and I lie too. It just is what it is. I don't think anyone is going to be completely honest about everything. Story 51. You are going to have to show that you don't get offended or take advantage of their honesty first. Then maybe you can build the trust required for them to be more honest. However, you cannot always expect them to be honest. It is easier with men because female groups can be harsh, and insecure relationships are where they learn to keep a distance. Story 52. I want to say this outside of your specific context. Good faith and trust are more important and achievable than complete honesty. Story 53. I'm unclear about what adjusted a few factors means, but one important lesson marriage has taught me is that my wife and I often have faulty memories. It is impossible to recall events exactly as the other person remembers them. I am an unreliable narrator of my own life, and we all are. What is desired is 1. 0% overtly lying about or intentionally omitting anything damaging or significant. 100% fidelity to your own memory when reporting events in general. Sufficient humility from both sides to admit that you may misremember something instead of allowing your ego to interfere when addressed about it. Story 54. Absolute honesty isn't always the most diplomatic or the safest form of communication with emotional beings. Story 55. I would say it's not realistic. You should expect honesty in matters that count, such as how the relationship is going, whether they wish to relocate to another state, if they do not want to have children, and if your mother or friend is annoying. Comments about what you are wearing should not be made unless you have asked. Additionally, stating that the show you are watching is boring is unnecessary. When it comes to honesty, consider whether it is for their own good. This will help you better gauge what you should be honest about. Story 56. Cooper. Hey Tars, what is your honesty parameter? Tars. 90%. Cooper. 90%? Tars. Absolute honesty is not always the most diplomatic or the safest form of communication with emotional beings. Cooper. Okay, 90% it is. 100% honesty is not what you think it is. Story 57. Married for 45 years, she told me how to please her sexually, but after that, her thoughts were her own. We enjoyed a vibrant relationship, so I didn't mind. We have an agreement not to cheat. If I ask her how she voted in the last election, she would say that is a personal matter. Not everyone shares everything, and it seems to work for us. Story 58. Watch The Invention of Lying to see what complete honesty looks like. Nobody wants that. Aim for complete respect and integrity instead. Story 59. You do not want complete honesty unless you can handle complete honesty. You also should not ask for complete honesty unless you yourself are capable of it. Story 60. You won't even get close to that with all these new chat AI sites. I would end a relationship with someone if they ever lied about significant matters, lied about moderate issues while in a committed relationship, or lied frequently, aside from the minor lies we tell to spare feelings. But be careful not to ask questions you don't want truthful answers to. Consider watching the movie Liar Liar for more insight. Story 61. No. Also, lying to enhance a story can be acceptable, but by lying I mean exaggerating. I guess you can create stories too, but I find that less enjoyable. Story 62. I believe it is possible to be 100% honest without being mean about it. The problem is that nobody can handle true honesty. Story 63. Very unrealistic. That being said, the only way to move forward is through the truth. I just don't think people are capable. Story 64. If you are referring to the type of honesty that asks, "Does my breath stink?" then no. However, if you mean honesty regarding anything important, I believe it is reasonable to expect truthfulness on major issues. No one is ever going to say that their ex is the best they have ever had or anything like that. Your expectations must be realistic. Story 65. It is unrealistic to remember everything from a specific event years ago. The phrase refers to expressing what is on your mind and answering truthfully to the best of your ability. Story 66. I mean, with my boyfriend, I am completely honest about almost everything. However, when it comes to my feelings, especially when I'm feeling a little down, I try not to tell him so I don't worry him. The truth is, he always ends up finding out anyway. As for everything else, yes, I am fully aware of it. Maybe I subconsciously lie, but if it is subconscious, is it really a lie? Story 67. Does my body look big in this? Yes. Sweetheart. I am not overweight. No. Sweetheart. I want it to stand out. Action is better. Stand up, feel yourself, and say, "It's fantastic." Works every time. Story 68. There is little chance of honesty. I don't often catch my wife in a lie, but it usually involves the children. When I say children, I mean our 21 and 19-year-old adult children. Someone will mess up, break something, or create a giant mess without cleaning it, and she will cover it up, claiming it was her fault or something similar. She hides a lot from me regarding the children. I am not an overly strict father, but I do believe in discipline as a form of education, along with the use of shame. My wife, on the other hand, does not share that perspective. She was raised in a very lax environment, whereas I grew up in a strict household with many rules. This contrast can be bothersome for both of us. Additionally, I often pretend to be interested in going out for hikes, shopping, or even a simple drive. In reality, I would much rather stay home, work outside, or watch videos online. The moral of the story is that no relationship is completely honest all the time, and it is unrealistic to expect that. Story 69. Honesty is hard to achieve in any type of relationship, not just romantic ones. Parents to children, employees to managers, and so on. Even with the best intentions, everyone bends the truth slightly or tells white lies for various reasons. Story 70. I tried to be generally honest and discovered that no one is truly ready for complete honesty. Don't get me wrong, I am still very direct. After hearing people tell me over the years that I should never be completely honest, I eventually accepted it. To be completely honest, sometimes I even lie to myself just to feel better. That said, I still maintain my morals and integrity. Cheating or anything similar is a boundary I do not cross, and I would immediately distance myself from anyone who doesn't share that belief. Now, let me bring that question back to you. How honest are you in your day-to-day life? Would you want to be completely honest? Do you understand that people may not react kindly to your honesty? Do you really want someone to be completely honest with you? Story 71. A successful relationship with complete honesty is unrealistic. If you expect total honesty from anyone, you will likely face constant disappointment. Story 72. I lie to my husband all the time. Yeah, I totally watched every single TikTok video you sent me today in between work. Yep, I drank 10 glasses of water today. No, I totally agree. No more DoorDash. Story 73. 100% is a very high amount of honesty, and I'm not sure that I would even want it. Do I want to know that our intimacy last night was good but not my best effort? Only if it would actually change what I would do in the future. Do I want to know that the meal I prepared was just okay versus it being good? Only if it would change how I prepare food next time. Let's just say that little white lies are acceptable most of the time. I'm open to having my feelings spared when hurting someone would serve no benefit. I do the same for her as well. Additionally, small alterations to a story are perfectly fine. Most people have a handful of interesting stories that they share, like things said at a dinner party. However, real life often misses the mark when it comes to an amazing story. Therefore, I believe it's okay to make minor adjustments to a story to enhance the entertainment value. For instance, condensing a conversation that took place over 2 sittings and presenting it as if it happened in one. Or merging the roles of 2 minor characters into one to create a tighter narrative. Not retelling the exact dialogue but condensing it so that only the important parts are conveyed. I'm also totally fine with not being told something that I don't want or need to know. I don't inquire about past relationships because it makes me feel jealous and uncomfortable. There's no need to tell me that your ex had greater physical attributes. I understand that we have both had prior partners, and I'm aware that my own attributes are average. I simply don't need to hear the details of such things. Just like I have been with individuals who may have been thinner, prettier, or performed better in intimate situations. There's no need to use the truth as a weapon to hurt feelings. Don't lie if I ask directly, but as long as I don't ask, and I won't, there's no need for you to bring it up. Story 74. Non-zero but very close. We are not an honest species to begin with. Some people work hard to be trustworthy, and that seems like the best way. As part of that group, I have the self-awareness to recognize when I'm not being fully honest in certain situations. Sometimes I have to reflect and consider different ways of speaking or choose to be more vulnerable. Lying by omission can happen so quickly that one doesn't even realize they are doing it. Then there is perception versus reality. That's where the baby goes out with the bathwater. It's so specific to each person's life experiences. Again, a no-lie utopia is non-zero, but I think there is a healthy level of trustworthiness and honesty one can learn to accept with anyone in their lives. Story 75. Due to how our brain functions, we are not completely honest with ourselves. Our memories are not based on facts, which can be quite unrealistic. Your perspective on what is true may vary. Story 76. Complete honesty is not realistic and should not be expected. The small lies we tell each other help maintain polite society and stable relationships. While it's important to be honest about significant matters, you do not need to know every detail of your partner's past or every thought they have about your mother's cooking. If they gloss over a few points in a story about their college years, let them. I'm sure there are things you've done that you'd prefer to keep private as well. Story 77. Not only is it completely unrealistic, but it is also counterproductive. Sometimes there are things your partner is better off not knowing. Story 78. Non-existent. For relationships, for cheaters. Honesty is no longer in my dictionary when it comes to others. It is sad. Story 79. This is a platform where many negative comments may be found. However, my husband and I maintain complete openness and honesty, partly because we are on the autism spectrum and believe it is pointless to lie. Story 80. Unrealistic. You have to ask yourself if her adjustments are hurtful or harmless. You can even call them out playfully, but sometimes people unintentionally edit a story in slight ways, and then their memory plays tricks on them. A quick clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson discussing eyewitness accounts always comes to mind when this topic arises. Story 81. Hey, is everything okay? Yes, I'm fine. I just wanted to check in. Yes, I said I'm fine. She was not fine and will bring it up 2 days later. Story 82. I try to be as honest as possible in my communication with my partner, but I omit things that I know will hurt them or that they do not care about. Being honest does not mean knowing everything. If they ask me, do I look fat in this? I will honestly tell her if she does. If I looked at adult content while she is sleeping, there is no need to tell her as she does not care for it. If she asks, I will answer. Complete honesty in communication with others is not healthy. Story 83. My girlfriend and I are completely honest with each other all the time. We have never had an issue. Your description could also simply be a matter of memory. Our minds can change stories as we go. My girlfriend and I often recall things differently, not on purpose. It's just how our brains work. Story 84. Unreal. The simple fact of not wanting to bother or hurt the other person, or wanting to do more, can lead to telling white lies. However, there are some subjects where it is realistic to expect honesty. Social interactions are complex. Story 85. It is rare for someone to be completely honest. I believe that if we know ourselves to be less than honest, it is difficult to imagine anyone else being different. Story 86. Relationship obsessive-compulsive disorder is real, and often those who have it require complete honesty in relationships. This expectation is not realistic. Adjust your expectations. Story 87. I tried to be completely honest in my relationships. It rarely went well and in many cases led to cheating. So now, a girlfriend would receive the same filtered version that everyone else gets. Story 88. It is impossible. People do not have perfect memory. That is why if you hear a story from two different people, you are hearing two different stories. It is not that either of them is lying. They just both remember it slightly differently. This is also why the amount of trust we place in eyewitness testimony is a bit concerning. Story 89. About 50% of my work involves situations where I cannot answer the question, "Where are you?" in real time. Therefore, it is not realistic for me. There are things I prefer not to disclose, and I will not share secrets entrusted to me. Thus, complete honesty is not something I expect. As long as the statements of love and trust from the other person are genuine, That is enough for me. I don't need to be told anything else. It may be a bad habit from work, but I prefer to discover things on my own rather than ask. This way, I end up knowing everything anyway. Story 90. I think it's fair to expect that the things said reflect honest thoughts and feelings. However, it's also reasonable not to fully express all details. For example, when asked, "Does this dress make me look fat?" you might have conflicting thoughts. Yes, it highlights certain areas a bit, and "I think she's beautiful." It's best to express the thought that she's beautiful without pointing out the flaws. Additionally, people's recollections are often unreliable. Whether they misremember events or simply have a different perspective, it can be difficult to determine if various aspects of a story are dishonest embellishments or genuinely how someone remembers it. Story 91. No. Try being completely honest about your feelings and observe how the love of your life may react negatively. It is important to be honest most of the time, but being entirely transparent can lead to a breakup or divorce. Story 92. No, you're going to lie about something at some point. Could be big or small, but you're going to. You are still your own person who has things that you like, do, eat, watch, and more. Hypothetically, let's say your girlfriend is going through a vegan phase. It's been a month. She dislikes the thought of you eating any meat, but you enjoy hamburgers. So you're out one day and get one. Do you feel like that fight is going to be worth a couple of dollars? No. So you're going to tell a small lie about it. This doesn't automatically mean that you're going to betray her or spend money out of your joint account or start a secret second family. I hate to be the person who brings up nuance, but it's common sense to know the general lines versus the lines that dishonest people may draw to justify poor actions. If you're not dishonest, you don't really have much to worry about if you tell her you had to stay at work late when you actually stopped by your friend's house to relax before going home and eating couscous. Story 93. Most people are not accurate, even if they try to be honest. The question is whether they are doing their best to be truthful, because nobody achieves complete accuracy, even with effort. Story 94. Memories are living things. They change in subtle ways each time you access them. No one who tells a story will recall every detail the same way every time. It isn't even lying. It's just how the brain functions. The important lies are about significant issues, either by commission or omission. Story 95. Even if people try to be completely honest, they sometimes remember things differently than how they actually occurred. Story 96. Babe, is my size impressive? Her response. Yes, babe, the biggest I've ever had. I look at my substantial 5-inch size. She may be exaggerating, but it feels good. Story 97. No one is completely honest with themselves most of the time, so one should not expect that from others. Story 98. Oh dear. It is definitely not realistic to be completely honest. White lies are necessary for human interactions to go smoothly, such as the dilemma of, do I look fat? There are things that are true in the moment but not true in general, and vice versa. Therefore, you have to choose between these two versions of the truth. For example, I might say, I hate you right now and would be happy if you jumped off the roof. While on most days, I actually love you. Our memory itself is extremely fallible. We do not remember what really happened. We remember our version of it, a version that has been edited so many times that we may not even realize it. For instance, I remember when, as a child, my family found a venomous snake in our garden and the ensuing panic. However, here is the strange part. I recall seeing the snake, but after speaking with both my parents, they agreed that I was in the garden but never actually saw the snake. My mind altered the story as I grew up. Things like this happen all the time. Story 99. What was the lie and what did hiding it cost? Was there a valid reason for the deception? No one should lie, but sometimes we deceive others for their benefit. For instance, when dealing with a trauma patient, we may reassure them that they will be fine, regardless of their current situation. People will lie to protect others' feelings. Story 100. Hey Tars, what is your honesty parameter? 60%. 60%? Absolute honesty is not always the most diplomatic or the safest form of communication with emotional beings. Story 101. Consider personal privacy and its importance when considering complete honesty. Most importantly, be careful what you wish for. Story 102. Happily married for over 25 years. Honesty can be challenging at times. There are some things that your partner may not need or want to know. It's not about being deceitful. It's about sparing that person's feelings and avoiding unnecessary arguments. We do this frequently in social settings. It's called having filters. Does this make my butt look big? No, it looks great. Story 103. Completely unrealistic. As many have probably pointed out, people are not always completely honest with themselves, much less with others. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.